The dinner hall aboard the UES Horizon buzzed with nervous energy. Captain Lisa Monroe watched from the head table as human crew members tried to make conversation with their alien guests. 3 months had passed since first contact with the Zephyrian Empire, and this cultural exchange was supposed to bring both species closer together. So far, it was not going well. The Zephyrians were impressive creatures. They stood nearly 8 feet tall, with 4 muscular arms and skin that looked like natural armor. Their leader, Warrior Prime Dexcar, sat at the center of the alien delegation. His dark eyes scanned the room with obvious boredom. The other Zephyrians whispered among themselves in their clicking language, occasionally pointing at the humans and making what sounded like jokes. Jake Collins, the Navy SEAL commander in charge of ship security, sat stiffly at his assigned table. His jaw was tight as he listened to the aliens' comments. Even without understanding their language, he could tell they were not showing respect. Danny Carter and Amy Rodriguez, 2 of his best team members, flanked him on either side. Both looked ready for trouble. "They think we're weak," Amy whispered. To Jake, she kept her voice low, but her anger was clear. "Look at how they're acting." Jake nodded but said nothing. He had spent 15 years in the Navy SEALs. He had fought in deserts and jungles, survived impossible missions, and earned the respect of every soldier he had ever served with. But these aliens looked at him like he was a child playing dress-dash-up. Dr. Henry Park, the ship's medical officer, tried to explain human biology to one of the Zephyrian scientists. The alien listened politely, but kept shaking his head. "Your species is very fragile," the alien said in broken English. "How do you survive on such a dangerous world?" "Earth isn't that dangerous," Dr. Park replied, though he sounded uncertain. Zephyrian laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Your gravity's twice ours. Your weather kills thousands each year. Known species fights constant wars. It is a death world by our standards." Captain Monroe stood and tapped her glass with a fork. The room fell quiet. "I want to thank our Zephyrian guest for joining us tonight," she began. "This exchange program represents a new chapter in the relationship between our species. Hope to learn from each other and build lasting friendship." Vexcar rose from his chair. When he stood, he towered over everyone in the room. His 4 arms moved in what might have been a gesture of respect, but his expression remained cold. "Captain Monroe, your hospitality is appreciated. However, I must speak honestly about what I have observed during our time here." The captain nodded, though worry flickered across her face. "Please, share your thoughts." "Your species fascinates us," Vexcar continued, his voice carrying easily across the silent room. "We're so small, so fragile, yet you venture into space with such confidence, like watching children play at being warriors." Jake's hands clenched into fists under the table. Amy put a warning hand on his arm, but he ignored her. Vexcar was not finished. "We have studied your military records. Your soldiers train hard, we admit this, but they lack the natural advantages that make a true warrior. In the Zephyrian Empire, strength is everything. A warrior must prove himself through combat, not through clever words or fancy technology. Our technology got us to the stars, Lieutenant." Commander Kate Sullivan interjected from across the room. She was the ship's diplomatic officer, and her job was to prevent exactly this kind of confrontation. "Yes, your machines are impressive," Vexcar agreed. "But what happens when the machines fail? What happens when it is warrior against warrior? Strength against strength? Your people would not survive such a test." The room grew even quieter. Every human present understood the insult, even if it was delivered with polite words. Jake felt his heart rate increase. Years of training and discipline warred with his natural instinct to defend his people. Danny leaned closer to Jake. "Easy, boss. Don't let him get to you." But Dexcar was still talking. "Perhaps it is unfair to judge your entire species based on what I see here, but even your elite soldiers—" He looked directly at Jake. "Even they seem so breakable. In my empire, such individuals would not survive their first trial of combat." Jake stood up slowly. The scrape of his chair against the floor sounded loud in the silent room. Every eye turned to him, human and alien alike. Captain Monroe opened her mouth to speak, but Jake was faster. "With respect, sir," Jake said, his voice steady and calm, "you don't know what you're talking about." Dexcar's dark eyes fixed on the human. For the first time that evening, he looked truly interested. "Oh, you disagree with my assessment?" "I do." Jake stepped away from his table, moving to where everyone could see him clearly. He was not a large man by human standards, standing just under 6 feet tall. Next to the towering alien, he looked like a child. But there was something in his posture, in the way he held himself, that commanded attention. "You judge our strength by our size," Jake continued. "You judge our skills by your standards. You've never actually tested either one, have you?" The Zephyrian delegation exchanged glances. Several of them made those glass-breaking laugh sounds. Then Skr raised one of his 4 hands for silence. "Are you suggesting a test, human?" Captain Monroe stepped forward quickly. "Commander Collins." "I don't think this is the appropriate time for actually, Captain. Maybe it is," Jake interrupted, though he kept his eyes on Dexcar. "Our guest seems to think humans are too weak to be worth respecting. Maybe it's time we showed him what we're actually capable of." Dr. Park stood up, his face pale. "Jake, you can't be serious. Look at the size difference. Look at their natural armor. Their bone density alone." "I know what I'm looking at, Doc," Jake said quietly. "The question is whether our friend here is willing to back up his words." Dexcar tilted his head, studying the human with new interest. The other Zephyrians had stopped making their clicking sounds. They watched their leader, waiting to see what he would do. "He would challenge me to combat?" Dexcar asked. "I understand that in my culture, such challenges are often to the death. I understand that in my culture, we don't let anyone call us weak without proving them wrong." Amy stood up quickly. "Jake, this is insane. I can't." "I can and I will," Jake said firmly. He looked around the room at his fellow humans. Some looked worried, others looked excited. All of them looked proud. Someone needs to show these aliens that humans don't back down from a fight. Dexcar made a sound that might have been approval. "Very well, human. Accept your challenge. But I warn you, I will not hold back simply because you are smaller than me." "I wouldn't want you to," Jake replied. Captain Monroe looked like she wanted to order both of them to stand down, but she realized it was too late. The challenge had been made and accepted in front of witnesses from both species. To stop it now would be seen as weakness by the Zephyrians and cowardice by the humans. "If this is going to happen," she said finally, "it will be done properly. We'll use the training bay. Full medical teams on standby, and there will be rules."
Dexcar nodded.
"Agreed. Shall we say 1 hour to prepare?" Jake looked at the alien warrior, taking his measure. Dexcar was bigger, stronger, and had natural advantages that no human could match. But Jake had something the alien didn't understand. He had survived in a world that tried to kill everything on it. He had been forged by evolution and hardened by training that would have broken most species. 1 hour, Jake agreed. "See you in the training bay." The training bay had never seen so many people at once. Word of the challenge had spread through the ship like wildfire. Off-duty crew members found excuses to be nearby, while the Zephyrian delegation arrived as a group, chattering excitedly. In their clicking language, the massive space, normally used for combat drills and fitness training, now felt cramped with spectators lining the walls. Jake Collins stood in the center of the padded floor, stretching and warming up his muscles. He wore simple workout clothes that showed off his lean but muscular build. Scars from old missions marked his arms and shoulders, each one a story of survival. He moved with the fluid grace of a predator, every motion controlled and purposeful. Amy Rodriguez paced nearby, her worry obvious. "This is crazy, Jake. You've seen how strong they are." Dexcar crushed a steel pipe like it was paper yesterday. "I saw it," Jake replied calmly, continuing his stretches. "But crushing metal isn't the same as fighting a person." Danny Carter checked the medical scanner readings one more time. "Your vitals look good, boss. Heart rate is steady, blood pressure normal. You're as ready as you'll ever be." Dr. Park approached with his medical bag, his face grave. "Need to be clear about what we're dealing with here. Zephyrians have natural bone armor, 4 arms instead of 2, and muscle density that's off the charts. Their reflexes are faster than ours, and their reach advantage is enormous." "Doc, I appreciate the concern, but I know what I'm getting into, do you?" Dr. Park grabbed Jake's arm, stopping his stretching. Their bones are twice as dense as ours. Their skin is literally armor plating. If he hits you with full force, it could kill you. Jake looked at the doctor with steady eyes. And if I don't fight him, every human in this galaxy will be seen as weak for the rest of our lives. Sometimes you have to take the risk. Lieutenant Commander Kate Sullivan joined their group, tablet in hand. I've been reviewing Zephyrian combat. Customs, in their culture, showing mercy to a weaker opponent is considered insulting. Dexcar will try to end this quickly to avoid embarrassing you. That's supposed to make me feel better? Actually, yes. He'll underestimate you. So that might be your only advantage. Across the bay, Dexcar was preparing in his own way. The massive alien moved through a series of combat forms that looked like a deadly dance. His forearms moved independently, each one following a different pattern. When he punched the air, the sound was like thunder. When he kicked, his foot moved too fast to follow clearly. The other Zephyrians watched their champion with obvious pride. They spoke among themselves, and their tones suggested they were making bets on how quickly the fight would end. Some held up one finger, others two. None held up more than three. Captain Monroe entered the bay with the ship's senior officers. She looked around at the crowd and shook her head. This was supposed to be a diplomatic mission, she muttered to herself. She walked to the center of the bay and raised her voice. Before we begin, I want to establish some ground rules. This is a demonstration of skill, not a fight to the death. The match ends when one participant yields or is unable to continue. Dexcar stopped his practice routine and approached. Up close, his size was even more intimidating. His natural armor gleamed under the bay's lights, and his forearms moved, constantly, as if they had minds of their own. Captain Monroe, in my culture, there is no yielding in a challenge of honor. To yield is to bring shame upon oneself and one's people. Then we'll modify the rules, Monroe replied firmly. The match ends when Dr. Park determines that continuing would cause serious injury. Acceptable, Dexcar agreed. He looked down at Jake with what might have been sympathy. Human warrior, are you certain you wish to proceed? There is no dishonor in acknowledging superior strength. Jake stepped forward, bringing himself within arm's reach of the towering alien. I'm certain. Very well. Know that I respect your courage, even if it is misguided. Dr. Park moved to a safe distance with his medical equipment ready. Amy and Danny took positions at the edge of the combat area. Close enough to help if needed, but far enough to avoid interference. The crowd fell, silent as the two fighters faced each other. The size difference was stark. Dexcar stood nearly 8 feet tall and weighed at least 400 pounds. His natural armor made him look like a living tank. Jake, at 5 feet 10 inches and 180 pounds, looked like a child by comparison. Begin when ready, Captain Monroe announced. Dexcar raised all 4 arms in a traditional Zephyrian fighting stance. I will try to make this quick. Human. You have shown bravery, but this is not a contest you can win. Jake said nothing. Simply settled into his own fighting stance, weight balanced on the balls of his feet, hands loose at his sides. He looked relaxed, almost casual. But those who knew him could see the coiled tension in his muscles. The alien made the first move. Stepping forward with one of his massive fists aimed at Jake's chest, it was clearly a testing blow, meant to gauge the human's speed and reflexes. To Dexcar's surprise, Jake slipped the punch easily, moving just enough to avoid contact. Interesting, Dexcar murmured. He tried again, this time with 2 arms. Moving in combination? Jake dodged both strikes, his movements smooth and economical. The Zephyrian crowd began to murmur. Their champion was supposed to end this quickly. But the small human was proving elusive. Dexcar increased his pace, throwing a series of combinations that would have overwhelmed most opponents, but Jake moved like water, flowing around each. Attack without wasted motion. He wasn't trying to counterattack yet, just learning his opponent's patterns and timing. Stand still and fight, Dexcar growled, frustrated by his inability to connect. You first, Jake replied, still moving. Alien warrior's pride was beginning to show. He had expected to end this demonstration within seconds, but the human was making him look clumsy. His movements became more aggressive, his attacks more forceful. Jake continued to dodge. But now he was also learning something important. Despite their impressive appearance, the Zephyrians were not as fast as they looked. Their strength was enormous, but their reflexes were actually slower than a well-trained human's. Their heavy bone structure and dense muscle made them powerful, but not quick. He's playing with me, Vexcar realized aloud. The alien crowd heard this and began clicking more loudly, their equivalent of excited chatter. Not playing, Jake said quietly, learning. For the first time, Jake went on the offensive. He feinted left, then drove his fist toward Vexcar's midsection. The blow connected, but the alien's natural armor absorbed most of the impact. It was like punching a concrete wall. Vexcar laughed, the sound echoing through the bay. Now you see the futility of your effort, human. Your strikes cannot penetrate our natural defenses. But Jake was smiling too. Punch had told him everything. He needed to know. The armor was strong, but it was also rigid. Protected against blunt force trauma, but created weak points at the joints where flexibility was necessary. My turn, Vexcar announced. He had finished analyzing the human's capabilities and was ready to end the demonstration. The alien warrior planted his feet and drew back one massive arm. This would not be a testing blow or a gentle lesson. This would be a strike with enough force to shatter human bones. It's delivered with the precision of a master fighter. Jake saw it coming and made no attempt to dodge. Instead, he braced himself and prepared to show these aliens what humans were really made of. The watching crowd held its breath as Vexcar's fist shot forward like a sledgehammer, aimed directly at the side of Jake's head. The impact would end the fight in one devastating blow, proving once and for all that humans were no match for Zephyrian strength. What happened next would change everything both species thought they knew about each other. The backhand strike came with the force of a freight train. Vexcar put his full weight behind it, whole 400 pounds of alien muscle and bone, driving his massive fist toward Jake's head. The sound of air being displaced was audible throughout the training bay. This was not a sparring blow or a gentle lesson. This was meant to end the fight permanently. Jake Collins had faced death many times in his 15-year military career. He had been shot at, blown up, and hunted by enemies across 3 continents. Yet he had never faced anything like this moment. Time seemed to slow as the alien's armored fist approached his skull with enough force to crush concrete. Instead of dodging or trying to block, Jake did something that shocked everyone watching. He stepped into the blow, angling his body to take the impact on his shoulder and upper chest, rather than his head. The sound of contact was like a gunshot, echoing. Through the bay, the force of the strike sent Jake sliding backward across the padded floor, his feet leaving marks on the surface. But he did not fall. He did not crumple. He absorbed the devastating blow and remained standing. His jaw set and his eyes focused. The training bay fell into complete silence. Every human and Zephyrian stared in disbelief. That scar strike should have shattered human bones like glass. Should have sent Jake flying across the room unconscious or worse. Instead, the SEAL commander rolled his shoulder, worked his jaw, and looked at the alien warrior with grim determination. My turn, Jake said quietly. What happened next took less than 2 seconds. But those 2 seconds changed everything both. Species thought they knew about combat, about strength, and about what it meant to evolve on a world that tried to kill everything living on it. Jake exploded forward with a speed that caught everyone off guard. His legs drove him across the distance, between himself and next car, faster than the alien's enhanced reflexes could track. The Zephyrian warrior, still recovering from the surprise of his failed finishing blow, started to raise his arms in defense. He was far too slow. Jake's right fist connected with the side of Vexcar's skull with a sound like thunder. But this was not the soft thud of flesh hitting armor. This was the sharp crack of something breaking, something that was not supposed to break. The impact traveled through Vexcar's natural armor like a shockwave. His supposedly impenetrable bone plating evolved over millions of years to protect against the strongest attacks his homeworld could produce, spider-webbed with fractures. The crack spread outward from the point of impact. Racing across the alien's skull faster than the eye could follow, Dexkar's forearms went limp instantly. His massive body, which had seemed so powerful and threatening moments before, collapsed, like a puppet with cut strings. The 8-foot alien warrior crashed to the padded floor with a sound like falling timber. The silence that followed was absolute. No one moved, no one breathed. The only sound in the training bay was the soft hiss of the air recycling system. Jake stood over the fallen Zephyrian, his right hand still clenched in a fist. He looked down at Dexkar with growing horror as he realized what he had done. The alien's dark eyes stared at nothing, and a thin line of blue blood trickled from beneath his natural helmet. "Oh God," Jake whispered. "I didn't mean to, ... Park was the first to move, rushing forward with his medical equipment. He knelt beside Dexkar and immediately began scanning for vital signs. His face went pale as the readings appeared on his screen. "Massive cranial trauma," he announced to the silent room. "Multiple fractures, severe brain injury. I need to get him to medical immediately." Four crew members rushed forward to help move the unconscious alien, but Dr. Park was already shaking his head. He looked up at Jake with eyes full of shock and sadness. "Jake, I'm sorry. There's nothing I can do. The damage is too extensive." Amy Rodriguez pushed through the crowd and grabbed Jake's arm. "What do you mean there's nothing you can do?" "Fixed him. I can't fix this," Dr. Park said quietly. "His skull is fractured in 17 places. The brain trauma is catastrophic. He's dying." The Zephyrian delegation finally broke from their shocked silence. They rushed forward, surrounding their fallen champion, while making sounds of distress that needed no translation. Subcommander Dextar, second in command, knelt beside his leader and spoke urgently in their clicking language. Dextar eyes flickered once, focusing briefly on Jake's face. His mouth moved, trying to form words, but only a whisper of air came out. Then his eyes went still, and the medical scanner's steady beep changed to a flat tone. "Time of death, 1947 hours, Dr. Park announced formally, though his voice shook. Jake stared down at the body of the alien warrior, unable to process what had just happened. He had thrown thousands of punches in his career, had fought in hand-to-hand combat dozens of times. He knew his own strength better than anyone. It should not have been possible. Captain Monroe stepped forward, her face grave. "Clear the bay. Everyone except essential personnel. Out now." The crowd began to disperse reluctantly, humans and Zephyrians alike, struggling to understand what they had witnessed. Many of the aliens looked at Jake with expressions that had changed. From condescension to fear. Vexti stood slowly, his forearms trembling with emotion. When he spoke, his voice carried a weight that had not been there before. "How?" he asked simply. Jake looked at him helplessly. "I don't know. I hit him the same way I would hit any opponent." "I wasn't trying to kill him, show me," Vexti demanded. "Show me your hand." Jake extended his right fist. There was no visible damage, no cuts or bruises that would indicate he had just delivered a killing blow to an armored opponent. His knuckles were not even scraped. Dr. Park examined Jake's hand with his scanner, then checked the readings twice. "No fractures, no tissue damage. Your hand is completely undamaged." "That is impossible," Vexti whispered. Dexkar's armor was evolved over millions of years. It could stop projectile weapons. It could deflect energy blasts. How could soft human flesh break what our strongest materials could not? Danny Carter had been recording the fight for training purposes. He replayed the final moments on his tablet, slowing the footage to analyze exactly what had happened. What he saw made him call the others over. "Look at this," he said, pointing to the screen. Jake's punch doesn't just hit Thexkar's head. Watch the impact point. They watched as Jake's fist connected with the alien's skull. In slow motion, they could see the exact moment of contact, the way the force traveled through the natural armor, and the precise pattern of fractures that followed. The armor didn't fail, Dr. Park realized. It transmitted the impact. Jake hit with enough force that the armor conducted the energy directly into the brain cavity. How much force? Captain Monroe asked. Dr. Park ran calculations on his tablet, inputting the data from his scans of both Jake's hand and Thexkar's skull. When the result appeared, he stared at it for a long moment before speaking. Based on the fracture patterns and the energy required to cause this level of damage through natural armor plating, Jake's punch delivered approximately 2,000 pounds of force per square inch. The room fell silent again as everyone tried to process this information. "That's impossible," Amy said finally. "Humans can't hit that hard." "Apparently we can," Jake replied. Looking at his undamaged hand with new understanding and growing fear, Vextai backed away from Jake slowly, his alien features showing an emotion that was universal across all species. "Terror, what are you?" he whispered. The medical bay had become a makeshift conference room. Captain Monroe sat at one end of the long table, her face showing the strain of the past 6 hours. Across from her, Subcommander Vextai represented what remained of the Zephyrian delegation. Between them lay the reports that would change how both species viewed each other forever. Jake Collins sat in the corner, still in his workout clothes, staring at his hands. He had not spoken much since the fight ended. Amy Rodriguez and Danny Carter flanked him, their presence offering silent support to their shaken commander. Dr. Park cleared his throat and opened his tablet. "I've completed the full analysis of both subjects. The results are ... unprecedented." "Let's hear it, Doc," Captain Monroe said quietly. "I'll start with Thexkar's body. Zephyrian physiology is remarkable. Their bones are approximately 3 times denser than human bones. Their natural armor plating can withstand impacts that would shatter our strongest materials. Their muscle fibers are more efficient than ours, generating more force per unit of mass." Vexti nodded sadly. "Dexter was considered exceptionally strong, even by our standards. He had won over 200 combat trials without defeat, which makes what happened even more significant," Dr. Park continued. "The fracture patterns in his skull show that he was struck with a force that exceeded the structural limits of his natural armor. The impact created a resonance effect that shattered his brain cavity from within," said Jake. "Hit with 2,000 pounds of force," Amy said. "How is that possible?" Dr. Park pulled up a detailed scan of Jake's right arm and hand. This is where it gets interesting. Jake's bone density is within normal human parameters. His muscle mass is impressive, but not superhuman. By all measurements, he should not be capable of generating that level of force. "But I did," Jake said quietly, looking up for the first time in hours. "I felt it happen. It was like something inside me just ... unlocked." "That's actually not far from the truth," Dr. Park replied. He switched to a new display showing brain scans and hormone levels. During the fight, Jake's body underwent what I can only describe as a controlled berserker state. His adrenaline levels spiked to levels that should have been toxic. His neural pathways showed enhanced coordination between brain and muscle. His bone structure temporarily increased in density. Captain Monroe leaned forward. "Temporarily increased? That's not how bones work, Doctor." "Not how we thought they worked," Dr. Park corrected. "But the scans don't lie. For approximately 30 seconds. During and after the fight, Jake's skeletal system showed density readings 50% higher than his baseline. His muscle fibers showed similar enhancement." Danny whistled softly. "So Jake basically became superhuman?" "Not superhuman. More human," Dr. Park said. "I've been comparing our data with historical records from Earth. This kind of enhancement isn't unheard of. There are documented cases of mothers lifting cars to save their children, soldiers performing impossible feats under extreme stress, athletes breaking barriers that were thought to be absolute limits." Vextai had been listening intently. He spoke, his his voice filled with a mixture of fear and fascination. "You are saying that all humans can do this?" "I'm saying that humans evolved with the capability, but most never access it because they never need to," Dr. Park explained. Jake's military training, combined with the life-force stress of the situation, triggered a survival response that we didn't know we still possessed. Jake stood up suddenly and walked to the viewport. Outside, stars streamed past as the ship continued its journey through space. "I killed him," he said simply. "I didn't mean to, but I killed a living being with my bare hands." "Jake, you couldn't have known," Captain Monroe said gently. "None of us understood what humans were truly capable of." "That's the problem," Vexty interjected. "None of us understood. For 3 months we have treated humans as weak because you appear small and fragile. We laughed at your military prowess because your soldiers seemed so breakable. We were wrong." He stood and began pacing, his forearms moving in agitated patterns. "Do you understand what this means? In the Zephyrian Empire, we have conquered 47 star systems. We have defeated species with advanced technology, superior numbers, and natural advantages we envied. But we have never encountered a species that could kill our strongest warriors with their bare hands. One incident doesn't make humans a threat to your empire," Captain Monroe said carefully, "doesn't it?" Vexti turned to face her. "Your Commander Collins is considered a skilled soldier. Yes, but he is not unique among humans. There are thousands of soldiers like Jake," Amy admitted, "some even better. The aliens' natural armor seemed to lose some of its luster, and your planet produced how many billions of such individuals?" The question hung in the air unanswered, but everyone understood the implications. Dr. Park consulted his notes again. "I've been researching Earth's evolutionary history. Our planet is what galactic science would classify as a death world. The gravity is higher than most inhabited planets. The weather is violent and unpredictable. Natural disasters occur regularly. The dominant species, US, has spent millions of years in constant warfare with each other and everything else on the planet. We didn't evolve to be peaceful," Jake said from the viewport. "We evolved to survive in a place that was constantly trying to kill us. Every human carries the genetic memory of survival against impossible odds," Dr. Park continued. "Ice ages that should have wiped out all life, volcanic winters that lasted decades, plagues that killed most of the population. We survived. All of it by becoming the most dangerous predator our world had ever seen." Vexti sat down heavily, the implications weighing on him. "My people evolved on a world with lighter gravity, stable weather, and few natural predators. We became strong. Through peace and plenty, you became strong through constant struggle." "It explains a lot," Captain Monroe mused. "Okay. Why human soldiers adapt so quickly to alien environments. Why our explorers take risks that other species consider insane. Why our diplomats are willing to venture into unknown space to meet potentially hostile aliens. Because for us, everything is potentially hostile," Jake said. "We assume danger and prepare for the worst because that's how we stayed alive long enough to reach the stars." Danny had been quiet through most of the discussion. But now he spoke up. "So what happens now? Do we tell Earth what we learned? Do we tell the other alien species?" It was Vexti who answered. "The news is already spreading. Some of my delegation transmitted reports before I could stop them. By now, every major power in this sector knows that humans killed a Zephyrian warrior prime in single combat." "Will they react?" Captain Monroe asked. "That depends on the species. Some will want to ally with you immediately, hoping to gain access to your military capabilities. Others will see you as a threat that must be eliminated before you become too powerful. Most will simply be afraid." Jake turned from the viewport, his expression grim. "Fear leads to bad decisions. If alien species start seeing humans as monsters, it could mean war. Or it could mean respect," Amy countered. "Maybe now they'll think twice before dismissing us as weak." Dr. Park closed his tablet and looked around the room. "There's something else we need to consider. If Jake can access this enhanced state once, he can probably do it again. And if he can do it, other humans can learn to do it too." The implications of this statement settled over the room like a heavy blanket. If humans could learn to consciously access their evolutionary survival responses, they would become the most formidable military force the galaxy had ever seen. "I need to contact Earth Command," Captain Monroe said finally. "They need to know what we've discovered before the situation gets out of hand." Vexed eyes stood to leave. "Captain, I will be sending my own reports to the Zephyrian High Command. But I want you to know that despite the tragedy that occurred, I believe this incident may have prevented a much larger conflict." "How so?" People had continued to underestimate humans. "We might have eventually provoked a war we could not win. Now we know the truth. Humans are not the weak species we thought them to be. You are apex predators from a death world, and we would be wise to treat you as such." As the alien left the medical bay, the humans sat in contemplative silence. They had come to space believing they were explorers and diplomats. Now they were learning they might be something far more dangerous. Jake looked at his hands again, wondering what other capabilities lay dormant within human genetics, waiting for the right moment to emerge. 3 weeks after the incident, Earth's command headquarters buzzed with activity unlike anything in its short spacefaring history. Admiral Ross Baker sat behind his massive desk, reading reports that changed everything humanity thought it knew about its place in the galaxy. Across from him, Jake Collins waited in full-dress uniform, medals gleaming on his chest. "Commander Collins," Admiral Baker began, "I've read Dr. Park's reports. I've watched the footage. I've spoken with ambassadors from 6 different species, and I still can barely believe what happened aboard the Horizon." Jake maintained his military bearing, but the weight of the past 3 weeks showed in his eyes. "Sir, I take full responsibility for the death of Warrior Prime Nexcar. Should have found another way to resolve the situation. Should you have?" The Admiral leaned back in his chair. "Because according to these reports, your actions may have prevented a galactic war that humanity would have lost badly." He activated the holographic display above his desk. Star charts appeared, showing the local sector of space with various alien territories marked in different colors. The Zephyrian Empire's territory was massive, covering dozens of star systems. Zephyrians were planning to invade human space within 2 years, Admiral Baker continued. "Their intelligence suggested we were a weak species with advanced technology, but no real military capability. They intended to conquer Earth and enslave our population." Jake's jaw tightened. "Sir, those plans changed the day you killed Dexcar. The Zephyrian High Command received reports that their strongest warrior was defeated by what they considered an average human soldier. They canceled their invasion plans immediately." The Admiral switched to a new display showing communication. Logs from across the galaxy. "But that's not all. Word of the Horizon incident has reached every major power in this sector. The response has been interesting." Jake watched as the communications flowed across the screen, most of them in alien languages with human translations. Appearing below, Sokorvan Republic wants to establish a military alliance with Earth. The Stellar Federation is offering us membership with full voting rights. The Nexus Collective has requested human military advisors to train their forces. And 3 separate species have asked for protection from their neighbors. "They're afraid of us," Jake realized. "Terrified would be more accurate," Admiral Baker confirmed. "Dr. Park's research has been shared with xenobiologists across the galaxy. The scientific community is calling humans the first known apex predator species to achieve spaceflight. Most species evolve from prey animals or evolve in peaceful environments. We're apparently unique." Jake thought about his training, about every human soldier he had ever served with. "What does this mean for Earth, sir?" Admiral Baker stood and walked to the large window overlooking Earth Command's training grounds. Below, hundreds of soldiers were going through combat drills, unaware that their routine exercises were being studied by alien observers who watched with growing nervousness. "It means humanity has become the most feared military force in the galaxy without firing a single shot in anger," the Admiral said. "It also means we have responsibilities we never expected." He returned to his desk and pulled up another display. This one showed ship construction schedules and personnel assignments. "We're accelerating the Space Fleet program. Every major nation on Earth is contributing resources. We're building ships not just for exploration anymore, but for protection. Of what, sir? Other species. Believe it or not, we're getting requests for human peacekeepers. It seems that when potential aggressors hear that human soldiers are defending a system, they find diplomatic solutions very quickly. Jake shook his head in amazement. 3 months ago, most aliens thought we were too weak to matter. Want us as bodyguards? The universe is a dangerous place, Commander. Most species achieved peace through technology or by avoiding conflict. They never developed the kind of warrior culture that humans did. When real violence threatens them, they need someone who understands how to fight. Admiral Baker activated. One final display, this one showing Jake's new assignment orders. Which brings me to why you're here. Captain Monroe has been promoted to Admiral and given command of the new Galactic Protection Fleet. She's requested you as her military advisor. Jake studied the orders, noting the ship assignments and crew numbers. This is a big operation. Sir, bigger than you know? We're not just building a fleet, we're building an institution. The Human Defense Corps will be responsible for training soldiers from other species. It's providing protection for vulnerable worlds and serving as peacekeepers in territorial disputes. And if we refuse these responsibilities, Admiral Baker's expression grew serious. Then other species will decide that humans are too dangerous to be allowed to expand freely. They'll form alliances against us, try to contain us to our own system. That path leads to war, and despite our newfound reputation, we're still badly outnumbered. Jake nodded slowly, so we become the galaxy's guardians, whether we want to or not. The role chose us when you threw that punch, Commander. Now we have to live up to it. The Admiral dismissed Jake, who made his way through the corridors of Earth Command toward the transport bay. As he walked, he passed bulletin boards covered with recruitment posters. The messages had changed from explore the stars to defend the galaxy and human strong, galaxy safe. In the transport bay, Amy Rodriguez and Danny Carter were waiting with their gear. Both had volunteered for the new Galactic Protection Fleet, along with most of Jake's original team. Ready for this, boss? Danny asked as they boarded the shuttle. That would take them to the orbital shipyard. I don't think anyone can be ready for this, Jake replied. 6 months ago, we were just soldiers. Now we're apparently the most feared military force in known space. Amy looked out the shuttle window as Earth fell away beneath them. Think we can handle the responsibility? We'll have to, Jake said. The alternative is a galaxy at war, with Earth as the primary target. The shuttle docked with the UES Guardian, humanity's first purpose-built warship. Captain, now Admiral Monroe, met them at the airlock. Her new rank insignia seemed to carry the weight of worlds. Welcome aboard, Commander, she said formally, then smiled. Good to have you back, Jake. As they toured the ship, Jake was amazed by the technology and firepower at their disposal. But what impressed him most were the crew quarters marked for alien officers. Humans would not be serving alone on these ships. We have Corvin tactical specialists, Nexus engineers, and even some Zephyrian volunteers, Admiral Monroe explained. It seems that killing one of their warriors earned their respect rather than their hatred. They reached the bridge, where alien officers worked alongside humans at various stations. Jake noticed that the aliens treated the human crew members with obvious respect, even deference. It's going to take some getting used to, Admiral Monroe admitted quietly. Being seen as the dangerous ones instead of the underdogs. Jake watched the mixed crew working together and felt a strange sense of hope. Maybe it's not about being dangerous. Maybe it's about being strong enough to protect those who can't protect themselves. That's the idea, Admiral Monroe agreed. We're not conquerors or bullies, we're guardians. The question is whether we can live up to that ideal. Through the bridge's main view screen, Jake could see other ships in the fleet taking shape. Each one carried human crews trained not just to fight, but to defend. In the distance, Earth hung like a blue jewel against the stars. The death world that had forged a species capable of protecting an entire galaxy. Jake Collins, Navy SEAL turned Galactic Guardian, stood at the threshold of humanity's greatest adventure. The punch that had killed Dexcar had opened a door that could never be closed. Now humans would have to prove they were worthy of the power they never knew they possessed. The galaxy was watching. The galaxy was counting on them. And for the first time since leaving Earth, Jake felt truly ready for whatever came next.